So I think we're on. Hey, you got to love it when it just starts, So we're sitting here, and hey, everybody, Steve Miller, better known as College Dad and Marketing Gunslinger. Thanks for joining us today. Greatly appreciate you participating in this because this is kind of a special deal. I found out that my best friend, John J, and I'm not going to make him act that way, but anyway, no, we've known each other for a few years and done interviews and stuff about our books, but he let me know that he had a new book coming out. And so I said, let's do this. All right. I'm going to just blast this out to everybody, and we're going to do this because I was fortunate enough to get a copy in advance of this. And I'm very excited to talk about this. So I'm, welcoming John Jantsch. Let me introduce you. I know you're eager to start talking, but and I'm going to say this. I want to start out with this because, quite frankly, this kind of irritates me, but I'm going to say it anyway. John Jantsch is the Peter Drucker of small business marketing. Seth Godin said that.
He did. He's been a great supporter over the years.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm a huge fan of Peter Drucker, so it was like a double.
Well, I am too. I base everything I base, we were talking, I say, I'm marketing and branding, right? Well, basically branding is innovation. As you know, Peter Drucker said there are two and only these two functions of a business. One is marketing and one is innovation. And I always say to people that marketing is your communication. Marketing is what you are communicating to the marketplace. Innovation is what makes you different. Okay. And you got to have both of those. So anyway, we've got our Peter Drucker fan club here. And, but I also want to, let me read, John's bio here so we can get going. I got a lot of questions for him about this. John is a marketing consultant, speaker, author of Duct Tape Marketing. I'm sure that every single person on here has read that. I don't think I've ever met any good marketer who has not read Duct Tape Marketing. Also, The Referral Engine, which I think is a fantastic book. The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, which I interviewed him about when that came out. And now The Ultimate Marketing Engine. See, got to let it get focused in there. See, on there. And the subtitle is the greatest. I'll say it's the second greatest, next to mine. But anyway, the subtitle: 5 Steps to Ridiculously Consistent Growth. And he's also the founder of the Duct Tape Marketing Consultant Network, and trains and licenses independent consultants and agencies to use the duct tape methodology. I started to say methodology. I am a professional speaker. Thank you, John. Thank you for joining us here today. And before I turn it over to let him start talking to me, I just want to remind everybody, okay, you can, please submit questions. If you got questions in the Q&A, if you see me looking away, it'll be because I'm looking to see if you're sending any questions into us. And in addition to that, before we start, because I want to make sure that I don't forget this, in the chat, I want to put in it's theultimatemarketingengine.com is the website.
That's right.
Okay, so while I'm putting that in, John, welcome. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate you having me, of course, and the support for this book. I bet you that if you do a little searching, there probably are some duct tape mythology sites out there. People actually, there's a lot of people that just have a strange affection for all things duct tape. So I suspect you could find some.
It was such a great title. Do you have a quick story about how you got the title?
I do have a story about how I got the title. So the reason that I actually came up with the term duct tape marketing is actually prior to the book. I decided if I was going to work with small businesses, I needed to have a very systematic approach where I could walk in and say, look, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. Here are the results we hope to get. By the way, here's what it costs. That's just what I had determined how I was going to be able to work with small business owners. So I was effectively, or at least I believed I was effectively moving marketing to more of like a product almost. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to give it a product, it needs to have something kind of more brand sounding. And so I actually came up with the term duct tape marketing to describe my system prior to the book. And it was really, I wish I could tell you, I did a whole lot of research about it, but it really just was more I was a small business owner. I'd worked with small business owners. It just felt like the right metaphor. And I realized pretty quickly people got it. People understood it, resonated, it got their attention. They had to know more about it, which are all good things from a brand standpoint. I actually changed the name of my business to Duct Tape Marketing. My blog was called Duct Tape Marketing, my podcast. And then eventually it made total sense for my first book to be called Duct Tape Marketing as well.
Sure. Yeah. And what year did that come out?
2007.
2007. Wow. That's great. That's great. But we're not here but we're here to talk about this book, right. Which I found to be, and when you and I were talking before, I said that the thing that struck me as I was going through this was that this was like attending a workshop, to me, because there was, in a workshop, there's a difference between, I think there's a difference between a seminar, a speech, and a workshop. Sure. Workshop, the key part of workshop is work.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
and
right.
You've got a lot of action steps in here, for people, I should say, to do stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For people in here. Why this book, John? What's behind this book in your head?
So as we were just talking about, 2007, Duct Tape Marketing came out. The referral engine, I think, was 2009. I've still continued to practice marketing every single day, but I really, because of some other interests, some other things that I've grown, you mentioned The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, which was not a marketing book at all. I just hadn't written a straight up marketing book in really 10 years. And obviously marketing has evolved. Certainly my thinking and my experience has evolved. And so I wanted to write a book that I think the world needs right now. And that's a book that is primarily, even though you talked about all the steps and the action steps, it is primarily a strategy first book. And that, to me is what the world needs now more than telling people what they should do on Facebook or TikTok.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I could see how you wrote it as a strategy book, but a lot of strategy books, here's the what, but right. we're not giving you the how.
Yeah.
See? And that's, and for me, that's kind of what I look for.
Yeah. And I'm just not wired that way either. I mean, one of the reasons I chose Duct Tape Marketing as the name is because it's very practical. And that's really, I think a lot of people try to complicate marketing, and I think it's pretty simple, actually, frankly. And so I try to simplify it. And this book, the subtitle, as you mentioned, is 5 steps. And so it does lay out very much like something that you would go to a workshop. In fact, I'll probably do workshops to really allow people to get in a room and get their thinking, aligned for maybe 2 days, as opposed to just working on it 30 minutes, one day, because it's important work, but it's also not necessarily easy work as well. But it's
definitely not. Yeah. No, I mean, the steps make sense. All that stuff makes sense, but you got to kind of put your nose to the grindstone a little bit to work on this stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. And some of that's just even being self-aware, being aware of, who your customers are, who your best customers are. I mean, I've done, we'll get into some of the steps, I assume, but, I've done work with thousands of business owners now. And I will tell you that one of the real challenges they have is that they typically try to be all things to all people, and that kind of waters down their effectiveness.
Yeah. And that kind of goes back to something you already said, where you kind of alluded that marketing is really not difficult. You kind of said that.
Yeah, I did.
And I tend to agree with you on that. I think there are things that people have to do, and I think a lot of companies do them backwards. And you make and we're going to get to that point. You have one point in here that I want to make sure that we get to, but we're going to talk about the 5 steps.
You bet.
I want to go through the 5 steps. So step number 1 is to, shoot, I got to keep putting these glasses on. Should I look older? Let's see. Step number 1 is where your best customers want to go? What do you mean by?
Yeah. So the step is actually, map where your best customers are today and where they want to go. So I present something in this book called the Customer Success Track. And my idea behind this is that, and we're going to talk about it, it's not every customer, but your ideal customers. I start the book out by saying the ultimate marketing engine is a successful customer. So that word successful is what I'm getting at. I think a lot of businesses create a product or a service and they say, who needs it? We sell it, we give it, thanks. And what I'm suggesting is we can start to really hone in on who our best customers are, and then figure out what stage they're in their business right now, what challenges we're really solving for them, even what the characteristics, how do we spot them?
Yeah.
And then we start saying, okay, what would be the next step for them? So for example, in my business as a marketing consultant, people often come to us needing foundational elements. Their website's not working. They don't have any content. They need SEO. We know that we have to fix that and fix we have a set of milestones and tasks to do just that. And we know that if we do that, now with the promise of actually generating leads for them can be the next step, the next stage. And then it's organizing the structure of their business and then leveling up and then stabilizing. And so we have set stages that we mature with them. And what we found is that we not only are able to add tremendous value, we're actually able to do more business with them over time. I mean, our average retention is about 19 months for our marketing clients. I have one client that I've worked with since 2004. And a lot of it is taking this approach of maturing with them instead of chasing new business, really maturing and doing more with them. And I think that for a lot of businesses, obviously the book contains the total roadmap. You're going to get all the tools, templates, checklists, everything that we do.
What I mean,
for marketing. But my real goal is that I think every business can take this point of view of looking at their customers, their best customers, more like members, that would join an organization, invest in being your customer, because you are focused on not just a transaction, but in providing them with a transformation, and that's the idea of taking them to where they want to go. And they may not even know where that is. You may not even know where that is. But I think by taking that point of view, that we're going to grow with them and we're going to scale our business with our best customers, I think it will inform the mission for the business. I think it will certainly inform your future products and services, and potentially who you hire and how you train. I think it really, we talk about it as being a marketing strategy. I believe it's an overarching strategy for many businesses. Well,
again, like we were talking about with like Drucker said, there are two functions, marketing and innovation. So marketing, the strategy, the marketing strategy basically to me is the business strategy.
That's right.
Because like you say, you're identifying your target market. We call them moose, the moose in the forest rather than all the other animals in the forest. Right. And then you said, transformation versus transaction. I first heard that from Nito Cobain. I don't know if you know Nito or not, but friend of mine, and he said he asked the question. He said, "Are you a transactional company or a transformational company?" And that really stuck with me for a long time. So when I I don't hear many people saying that, So hearing you saying that, that's huge. Is that you're helping your customers succeed?
Yeah.
Okay. And I love that concept of growing with them as they succeed. Now, inside under that first step also, of where they want, where they want to go, you talk about the marketing hourglass.
Yeah. So that's been my kind of customer journey tool that I've been using and refining as a framework for 15 years. And it borrows, if you think about the marketing hourglass, it borrows the funnel shape, which has been a proven, still taught in colleges everywhere, I'm sure, in marketing classes. But for me, it ends, for a lot of people when somebody says, yes, I want to become a customer. And I think the real opportunity to grow a business and create momentum in a business is after somebody becomes a customer.
That's the bottom of that funnel, where it gets down. And I always used to say, like, well, what the heck happens now? Don't we want them to stay with us? Don't we want them to refer us?
Right.
But and you also said, that it's not, that the funnel Is it a metaphor?
Yeah, I mean, the hourglass is sort of a metaphor,
Metaphor.
shape. The funnel is a metaphor, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of people just drop out of the bottom of that, and that's it. Job done. And so what I did is said that, I borrowed the funnel shape, but then flipped it over and said, let's make it an hourglass, because that's where we can intentionally expand our marketing efforts and campaigns and processes to make sure that we are retaining and that we are repeating business and that we are creating evangelists who want to refer our business. And so,
well, your growth comes from adding customers, but keeping customers and right. and helping them to succeed more, yeah. which also makes them want to refer us.
That's right.
So that's why I mean, it is a perfect metaphor for that, and so, I love the marketing hourglass. You already talked a little bit about the customer success track. You want to talk a little more about that?
Well, so if you think about the marketing hourglass, it has 7 stages in my world, and they're really behaviors that I think people want to go through. So they are know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And
okay,
you buying habits.
You stuttered a little. I mean, I don't mean stutter, but your video and audio started just a little bit. So can you repeat those again?
Sure. It's know, like, trust.
Yeah.
Try, buy, repeat, and refer. And those are behaviors that I think people, again, as I was starting to say, if you use your own buying behaviors. I mean, if we have a problem, we want to know who can solve it. We're going to start looking at them and making snap decisions about, do I like what I'm seeing? We're certainly not going to make a purchase unless there's a level of trust. We believe that they're going to do what they say or that they've helped other people. I don't know about you. I'd love it if I have the ability to try what it might be like to work with a company. And believe me, picking up the phone and calling them, they're trying you at that point. I mean, try is not just a free 30-day software trial. Any way that somebody can actually talk to somebody in your organization or attend an event like this, they're trying you.
Yeah, everything walks the talk.
Yeah. So, and then buy, of course, we obviously want, once we say, yes, okay, I'm going to buy now, the buyer's remorse kicks in, and we want that reassurance that we made the right decision. We want communication to stay high. And certainly if I find somebody that can solve my problems that I have a good experience with, I don't go looking again every time. I just go right back to them and say, I need it again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then as human beings, I think we're wired to refer, people that do a good job. I mean, or at least talk about somebody that exceeds our expectations or surprises us. And so I think the challenge for the business is to then intentionally realize that people's questions and objectives change at each of those stages. And we have to adjust our messaging, our content, the channels, maybe even that we're in, for moving people through and guiding people through those stages. So if you think about the customer success track, it's kind of like a map. The marketing hourglass is the big map, and then the customer success track is sort of the inset of the map that kind of drills down into when somebody becomes a customer. It's the entire blueprint then for what we do to move to get them result to get them to where they want to go, and it involves 4 elements: a stage name. It could be 3 to 5 stages. Doesn't really matter for your kind of business. Characteristics. I want to be able to spot somebody. Here's what this person looks like when they're in this stage. Mm-hmm. I want to identify the challenges that I know that they're experiencing. I talked about the foundational stage. The biggest challenge for many businesses in foundational stage for us is that their website's just not doing anything for them.
Okay.
They spent a bunch of money on it, but it's not generating any business for them. And then lastly, we want to identify what's the promise. If we can move you from this stage, what's the promise of that going to the next stage? And so that becomes our overarching success track that we work on maybe for years. We continue to develop and change and evolve with customers. But the key to making it work is that we then take each stage, and we identify the milestones that we know are associated with that. And every milestone is a question that there is only 2 answers to, mm-hmm. yes or no. Mm-hmm. So the question's not, is their website effective? Well, I don't know, but the question might be, does the website load effectively on a mobile device? Yes or no.
Yeah.
And so we can actually take people through these milestones, and all the yeses, great. Check that off the box. All the no's, we have tasks that we assigned to accomplishing those. So it becomes almost like a guaranteed roadmap that if we can accomplish all the milestones, you will move to the next stage. So it really, on top of being a strategy, it is very then drilled down and documented to the process level that allows us to train and delegate and almost certainly message, to a potential client, but almost show them that we have a guaranteed path to get them from where they are today to where we think they want to be.
And there might be detours, but like you say, so, there's road construction, and there's, I mean, something happens, right? And
right.
But as long as you still have that end goal in mind,
that's right.
And you work backwards from that, then you can always adjust. So is it a loop?
Well, there are loop aspects to it, because as a business matures, let's say their message is X, and that's a great message for attracting a certain ideal client, but their ideal client evolves over time. And maybe they start working with, I'll just throw an example, they start working with larger clients or something. So maybe the messaging has to be revisited. So we're constantly reviewing and evolving, I think, anything that we do. I think somebody's just getting started in business, half the time they're guessing at what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Then they land on something that works, and then they start maturing kind of in that path. And so I'm a 90-day planner and obviously a big annual planner. So we'll revisit the success track, weekly, monthly, quarterly, certainly.
Well,
and then, of course, annually.
Yeah. And you need to do that. I want to make sure we get through the 5. So I have to. So,
well, that was a big one to unpack, though.
That was a big one. Yeah. You've got like 4 chapters just for that one alone, right. And the rest of them are paragraphs. So it's okay. We're you talk about the real problem you solve for them, and one of the things, and it might not have been in that chapter, but it doesn't matter. It fits with that, is that you say that the customer often doesn't know how to solve their problem.
Yeah.
And that's what we're there for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the real challenge is sometimes they don't really even know what the problem is.
Okay. All right.
And so when I talk about uncovering the real problem you solve for your ideal customers, is that, I sell marketing strategy. Nobody wakes up and says, I want marketing strategy. They want to know why every time somebody asks for a quote, they want a lower price, or why every time they go look at Google, their competitors are in the 3-pack with those star reviews and they're not. Those are the problems that they're trying to solve. Sometimes they can't articulate certainly the solution to solving that, because I know for a fact that both of those things that I just talked about are fundamentally strategic problems.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can be the business that's saying, all you need to know about SEO is we make the phone ring, or, we'll get you, on page 1, or we'll make sure that, you're showing up before your competitors do, or we can show you how to differentiate so price goes down the list. Those are the things that they're trying to solve. Or maybe it's even just, we're going to install a marketing system so that you can take back control of your business and your marketing. Now we're getting at the heart of what they're experiencing, what they're feeling, that they might not even be able to articulate, but by us being able to communicate what their problem, and maybe even outline what their problem is, they immediately have this, oh, you get me, you're saying something different than everyone else. And I just believe that's the entry in a lot of cases to somebody saying, you know what, you're making the competition irrelevant, or, you're changing how I even view this industry.
Right.
And I think that's really the goal in some of our first messaging. If you want to build trust quickly, that's how you do it.
Well, and the innovation part that Peter Drucker called, I call it being uncopyable. Okay. That relevantly, uniquely, measurably uncopyable. And because sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, a lot of the times when people think they've got a problem, the main thing that they start thinking about is, we're not getting enough leads, or we're not getting enough sales, or something like that. And so then what do? They look at the competition, they study the competition, and what are they doing? Oh, we could do that. And we can do that even a little bit better than them, and it's just like, what? Yeah. You're looking at the competition for ideas. I mean, who taught you that? Right. So I think that that's a big part of the education process, is getting them to understand is that you have to come up with ideas for sure, but you don't want to be just copying what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, then I often talk about this. If there's no way for somebody to tell the difference between 3 or 4 people that they're talking to, I mean, they just default to price.
It's price.
It becomes
price. Yeah,
only consideration. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know who said it, but nobody buys because you're similar to the competition. Right. Nobody. But if all else is equal, you just have to be cheaper. Okay.
Well, and I like to add to that to tell people that if you're competing on price, I can guarantee you there will always be somebody willing to go out of business faster than you.
Yeah, the race to the bottom. That's exactly right. So step 3, you talk about narrow your focus. Are you talking about?
Well, this could easily.
You're talking about customers or what?
Yeah.
Or what?
Well, I probably am talking about a lot of things, but I'm saying narrow your focus to the top 20% of your ideal customers. Now, I could easily make a case for this being step number 1, because we're really going to develop the message and the customer success track for this top 20%. But the innovation in this book, in my mind, is the concept of the customer as member of the customer success track. So I wanted to lead with that. But now that we've gotten to step 3, over the years, I've worked with many thousands of business owners and got them to take a good hard look at who they're actually doing business with, rank them by profitability, talk about who actually makes referrals. And experience tells me that anybody that takes that exercise and does it will find that somewhere around the top 20% of their customers are producing somewhere around 80%
of the profits
of the profit, or at least the opportunities that are there. And some 20-30% of the bottom, you probably are losing money on. I know that sounds crazy,
and you're probably spending too much time on them.
Well, that's always true too. There's sort of this the smallest customers that ask for the cheapest price, always require the most amount of time to serve. But rather than being cynical about it, I'm just saying is what's it really costing you to serve them, and it's the opportunity costs that I think a lot of people neglect to understand.
Yeah,
your top 20% of your clients, there's probably similarities. There's probably behaviors that are similar. They probably have the same problem, and you're really set up to solve that. Again, what I find typically, they're the people you actually provide the most value for as well, and that's why they're referring you to. And that's another element that puts them in that top 20%. And I'm not saying you don't serve anyone else. What I'm suggesting is your messaging, your content, everything should be around attracting more of those, and B, figuring out how you could actually do more with those best customers. I have seen over the years that 20% of that 20% would like to do 10 times as much business.
The 4%,
right? And then another 20% of that 20%, would like to do 100 times.
Yeah, it's fractal. So absolutely.
So
I love that. I love that.
So that's the real opportunity, I think, that is lost in chasing, anything that you think can make a buck. And again, I've been there, I've done that, but I've also seen the opposite, and it is a much greater way, much less stressful way, much more enjoyable way to build a business. And I think it's actually a much more lucrative way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to remind those of you that are on here and to be sure to, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A.
Or if you just want to say hi, just say hi.
Yeah, or just say hi. You can put that in the Q&A or in the chat, and just want to say hi. No question. Yeah, absolutely. But but for sure, ask John some. Come on. So, you know what? Somebody make it hard. Somebody make it hard for him. All right. I'm throwing him all these softballs. No. But okay. So here, and I don't remember seeing this in your book, but I'm gonna take a step from what you just got done talking about with this 80-20, is that what it also means is you have to be willing to fire people.
Yes, absolutely. And that's in some ways, that's why people don't do it, or they're afraid to do it, is because when I've had people do this exercise of looking at the profitable and obviously their least profitable clients that show up on there too,
sure.
They sometimes start questioning, why are we even doing that?
Yeah.
You know, how are we, you know, we need to pass that person on, but that's painful. I mean, you worked long and hard to get somebody to say yes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, anybody to say yes. And so the idea that you are going to now stop serving them. And sometimes it's just a case. I mean, I've worked with businesses that, you know, are very successful, and some of it is they just don't want to let go of that client because that client was with them in the early days.
Sure.
You know, they helped prop them up. You know, it's like, but you don't really. I have a remodeling contractor that did, you know, $100,000, $200,000 kitchens, but if you called them and your gutter was hanging down a little bit, they'd run out there and do that too. Well, they lost money every time they did that, but they just couldn't say no. They were just too good of people to say no. But it, nice. You know, and that's hard.
I had a client that and this was a real issue too, was that they were in the top 20, they were in the top 4%.
Yeah.
Okay. But they were just a pain in the butt. And they made my life miserable.
Right.
Okay. They treated me with disrespect. And it was very demanding, very commanding, we say jump, you ask how high type of thing. Right.
Yep.
And my smoking hot wife, Kay, and I had to figure out, we had to finally say, we have to let these guys go. And they represented a huge chunk of our business, but we ultimately bit the bullet. We let them go. And then as a result of that, I created a set of rules,
right,
that are now on my website. And then if you go, and when you go to my website, you'll see across the top, you see Steve's rules. Yeah. And I say, look, if you want to work with me, here are the rules. All right. Because this is my business.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I want to take care of you. I want to take the best care of you possible. I want to help you succeed. But if you violate any of these, and it's stuff like, my family, right, is more important than you are, stuff like that. And ever since we established those, it has been so much easier for us to focus on the top 20%.
Well, and one of the things that I want to highlight that you said there, a lot of times when you say your top 20%, people default to revenue. That's one number, or that's one factor, but it's certainly, as you just outlined, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the deciding factor. I'm a big proponent. If you're a smallish business and you're a consultant and you're only going to have 8 or 10 clients, you better not have 2 cancers, or it's going to drive you crazy. And so you get to choose. And I think that's the lesson you learned in that is, in fact, you have to choose, or you'll be living somebody else's vision. Yeah,
exactly right. And the fun thing for us was that many years later, I'm going to say like 15 years after this all happened, they had a change in management, and now they're a client again.
Well, that's even better.
But they had to agree to the rules.
That's even better.
Yeah. And now you're going to get into something that I love. Okay, is your step 4 is that the narrative is the story.
Yeah. So obviously content has become our content on our websites, content that we put in email, content in your sales promotions, and it's probably the biggest stress for most marketers, because they've been told content, and it's just kind of turned into a dumping exercise, and they don't see much value in it. There's constantly like, what's the ROI of this? Well, there's very little ROI on a lot of people's efforts and content because it's just not focused. It's scattered.
They're doing it wrong.
They're,
like you say, they're just kind of vomiting.
Exactly. And so when you take this framework of the marketing hourglass, you start realizing that content is a big driver of what moves people through those stages. But we have to also understand that our prospects and our clients' questions and objectives and goals change at each of those stages. And that if we think about content and every channel that we're in based on where does it fit in the customer journey, we can produce a lot less content, and we're going to be producing content that really matches up with the story that our ideal customers are already telling themselves. And that's really the key to building this kind of long-term momentum. I do introduce the idea of narrative versus story. I mean, storytelling is, there's probably a whole shelf of books in the bookstore on using storytelling in business now. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is definitely far more effective than talking about ourselves and how great we are and all of our solutions. But I think it belies the fact that we're not really in charge of how somebody moves through that journey. The customer journey is not a linear path anymore. It is all over the place.
Right.
And so the idea behind narrative is, if we think in terms of these chunks of the story, we start to understand that, like a good movie, a good movie is very rarely told in, this happened on day one, and then we ended up here. The fiery car chase happens in the first 30 seconds, and then you don't know what happened. And next cut to the next scene. I'm in 7th grade English class, the protagonist is in 7th grade English class, and that's what sucks us in. And I think that's how we have to think about story, as rearranging it in a way that allows the person, draws the person in, so they want to go on this journey with us.
Well, and also, and I think that there's a lot of value to having a narrative that separates you from the competition.
Oh, sure.
Because, when we get into, I say all the time, technology is commoditizing everything. It used to be the days where, a company could produce a product that was unique, and if if a competitor wanted to copy it, it would take months and months for them to, design, prototype, all that sort of stuff. Now it takes a couple of weeks. Yep. Right. So the idea of creating products that are uncopyable is pretty hard to do. Even services is pretty hard to do. But I think when you talk about wrapping the experience and around it, of the experience that they're going to have in the beginning, like you say, at the top of the funnel, if we want these, they might fit the profile of our target market.
Right.
All right. But we need them to keep moving down from the know, like, trust, and then keep moving down. In the beginning, I think if you can have a narrative that already starts to separate you.
Yes.
I have a client that they manufacture tents for the rental event industry, right? Weddings and graduations and stuff like that. Well, there are a lot of companies that manufacture tents, and they're all pretty good. There's not a lot of difference.
They're all using the same equipment and the same materials, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then I found out that their origin story was Grandpa started the company back in 1929 during the Depression, and he had to be very flexible. He had to be very creative. He found out, they don't just want tents. They want tables. They want food. They want, something to drink. They want, entertainment, and they want all this stuff. So he went the extra mile to get all that, including he became a bootlegger. So that story, that origin story for them, starts to tell, hey, these guys will go the extra mile. They'll do whatever they have to do. And it has opened so many doors, once we started to focus on that. And so to me, I think that's an important part of starting the in the beginning of a relationship, when it's hard to say we're different.
Yeah. That's right. And really, one of the things, if there was a lesson that came out of the pandemic for me, and I wrote this book, frankly, during that period, a lot of my customers, the ones that obviously some people were really challenged because they were in the wrong industry, wrong time. But I saw a lot of my customers not only survive, but really thrive. And what it shone a very bright light on to me was that, in good times, a lot of businesses just rise with all the boats. But in tough times, businesses that survive and thrive are ones that are meaningful in some way in the lives of their customers. And I saw that over and over again. Businesses that focused on getting closer, staying closer, understanding their customers, understanding their customer's story, were the ones that were able to actually adjust and adapt, for the given circumstance, but also are the ones where their customers stayed very, very loyal and very true to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that in itself is a narrative, so it's, that's right. Even in bad times, somebody's going to succeed. Somebody is going to succeed. Yep. So, okay. So we get to number 5. We're doing great on this. Okay. Where you talk, and you already kind of mentioned this a little bit, but scale with your customers. Step 5.
Yeah. And essentially I start that step off, or the chapter that launches that step, was essentially saying this is a referral. I mean, this is what we're going to talk about in this entire section is essentially referrals. And what I mean by that is that, if you follow my hourglass, the last step was refer, and that becomes kind of the ultimate goal. And what I think happens, I did research recently again on this. I've done it a number of years. 82% of small business owners say that at least 50% of their new business comes by way of referral or word of mouth. Just happens. It's how the world works. But so few of them do anything about it intentionally. That's right.
It's very passive.
It's the accidental.
It's not proactive, and it drives me nuts.
So this step, I give what I think are some very practical ideas around how to generate referrals from your clients, but also how to generate referrals by impacting their entire ecosystem. So everybody else that serves them, that you have a mutual client with. I believe you can provide more value to your client if you understand who those other providers are and you actually educate those other providers. I give you an entire process for how to create your own strategic partner network in a very formal way with other non-competing businesses that serve your same ideal client. And then lastly, I give an entire curriculum on, and I believe any business can do this. Doesn't matter if you're a marketing firm. I believe any business can start thinking about bringing their clients together, their customers together, and teaching them how to get more referrals. I have a complete, as I said, I break it down by the, meet once a month. I break it down by the, here's what you're going to accomplish in the meeting. And all it really is a referral generation mastermind that you're hosting. And you're going to let everybody share ideas, and you're going to do some teaching maybe in that. And again, pick up my book, The Referral Engine. You'll have a wealth of things you could teach to people. And what I found is, and we know this, that when you're the one offering that, you could charge for it if you want, but I would certainly suggest that you consider doing this for free, that you're going to help them get more referrals. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to reciprocate in kind, because that's just the way human nature works. But doing this is, again, you just make yourself so much more valuable to your clients. Heck, bringing your clients together is actually a great thing to do in many cases, because it's a networking opportunity for them. But I can almost assure you that if you take and run in step 5, you take and run with one of those or multiple of what I outlined in there, you'll never have to look for a new business again.
Yeah. And I also love you said that, because there are actually a couple of my clients that are watching us right now, and they are part of a group,
nice.
Almost like a mastermind group of our clients that we bring together every week, and they're great, and it's awesome, and I'm glad to see you guys here. But ask a question. Come on, you guys. Yeah, otherwise, I'm going to be chastising you.
The shyest group I've ever seen.
I know. I cannot believe it. So okay, we've got a couple of minutes left before I cut us off here. I do have one more question, but I want to pass the baton to you to say, okay, if we, what have I not asked you?
Sure.
What do you want to leave them with? I want to remind them that in the chat, I have put the website for them to be able to go and they can get your book.
Yeah.
On your website, right? They can pre-order it.
That's right. So pre-order the book from whoever you order books from. But if you go to the Ultimate Marketing Engine, You'll also see that if you pre-order the book, I have a companion course that's ready right now. It's 6 lessons with some of the worksheets that accompany the lessons. So your book will be shipped September 21st or however, from whoever you buy it from, or you can go pick it up at a bookstore. But you could start working on some of these ideas really today if you do that. So
if they buy it on, say, Amazon, then they go over to your
just
site.
Come back to the Ultimate Marketing Engine. You'll see a big old link there that says get the companion course, and it'll tell you exactly how to do that.
How to do that. So absolutely sign up for that. Go get his book, doggone it, you guys. And I'm going to be obviously telling all my followers my BFFs. I call them my BFFs. To do that. And as far as the other question I was going to ask you, they're just going to have to wait for that.
Right. I always just spill it all anyway. So I think we got it all out.
No, I thought, fantastic. Appreciate you joining me today, John. And I wish you great success. Thanks. And I hope you have another bestseller. I think you probably will. Well, and then look forward to talking with you again. John Jantsch, author of the new book, The Ultimate Marketing Machine, 5 steps to ridiculously consistent growth. Thanks again for joining me. And like I say, I'll see you down the road. And everybody else, this is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad and marketing gunslinger. Thanks for joining us today. And always remember, be uncopyable. We'll see you.
Take care, Steve.
Bye.